What's up, my brothers and sisters? JS here. And it's time for another story time with JS. So you guys have asked for more story time videos, and I'll probably never run out of crazy stories to tell you guys. So this is another crazy story, one of the craziest path workings I've ever done. One of the most terrifying, for one, absolutely terrifying and intense, but also one of the most beneficial. All right, so this I call the path working of the master spirit of the spider. Now, it kind of relates back to the whole animism concept where each animal, there's like a god, like a master spirit of each animal, each insect. It's a shamanic practice, shamanic belief, and it's mainly the old school Native American and South American shamans that practice this. So this is with the spider. Now, this is not arachne, as a lot of occultists talk about, the spider demon, spider god, spider spirit. No, this is the master spirit, the god of the spider itself. Now, something important that goddamn cigars won't stay lit unless you keep on sucking on them. Something important I need to iterate at the beginning of this is I used to be terrified of spiders. Ever since I was a little kid, like I had arachnophobia. I was afraid of spiders, I was afraid of heights, and I was afraid of water that I could not see the bottom of. Being out in the middle of the ocean or being out in the middle of a giant lake used to scare the shit out of me. Being up on a wobbly scaffold or the side of a building or cliff climbing, which I used to do, used to scare the shit out of me. And spiders, whenever I would see one, especially up close, or look down and see one crawling up my shirt, it would trigger my fight or flight like that. And I never could figure out why. I can understand the fear of heights because falling would suck. Can understand the fear of deep, dark water that you can't see the bottom of because I don't have fins, I don't have gills, and sharks and alligators and sea monsters are very fucking real. So, yeah, I feel like a sitting duck anytime I'm in the water. But the fear of spiders, I couldn't quite figure out. And so, as I'm doing this animism, shamanic path working, it's about 7-8 years ago, I would have lots of different encounters with different animals, different insects, and would evoke the spirits, the master spirits of those animals or insects, and get information from them. I get sigils from them. They would teach me how to utilize them in spell work, not only the spirit, but also the body parts of those animals. And so like I would do like a evocation of the master spirit of the owl, and then have an owl fly into my truck. I've had buzzards fly into my truck. I've had hawks fly into my truck. I had a woodpecker fly out of the left side of a graveyard from the left side of the road and splatter all over my windshield. And if I didn't have a windshield, if I'd have been on a dirt bike or something, it would hit me right in the face. Like shit like that really grabbed my attention. So I started paying attention to it, especially when I became a black magician and started practicing full time. I started really paying attention to shit like that. So I started having these experiences with spiders, all right, which, like I said, I used to be afraid of spiders. Since I did this, I'm no longer afraid of spiders. Now they don't trigger my fight or flight. Now they just excite me when I see them. So I evoked this spirit, the master spirit of the spider, and it gave me a command word. So I wrote the command word down on a Post-it and stuck it to the mirror in my bathroom. I didn't know what it meant, didn't know anything really. I was walking this path blind. And so it was a few nights later, I'm in my bathroom and I find this spider on the counter. It was trying to crawl down into the sink and get some water or whatever. And so I caught the spider in a cup, and I was about to walk out of the bathroom to go release it outside, and then the Post-it just jumped off the mirror and landed on the counter, face up, right there next to it. And I was like, all right, I'm supposed to do something with this. So I go into my temple, I lay out my magic circle, and I took a Pyrodex glass bowl, like a huge glass basin. And I was counting on this spider being confined inside this basin. I didn't think it could crawl up the side of this steep glass, you know? And so I put the spider down in the glass basin. I lit the candles, lit the incense, and I sat down and I evoked the master spirit of the spider. And I pricked my finger and put a drop of blood, let it drip right down in the center of the basin as an offering to it. And then I took my notepad and a pen, and I had it ready in case anything came through. This is when I got the sigil and the information. It was after getting the command word. So in the middle of this ritual, the spider crawls up the side of the glass bowl, and it crawls 3 counterclockwise circles around the rim of the glass bowl, and then stops right here and sits there and stares at me. All right, my adrenaline's pumping at this point. This spirit came in so strong, and it said that, you know, it was essentially fear and terror, and that by making allies with this entity, that I could utilize that power and energy and that spirit to strike fear and terror into my enemies and devour my enemies. And then it gave me this sigil. All right, I drew that free-handedly. I've never been able to draw it free-handed again. I either have to trace it, or I have to take a picture of it and print it out, which I have printable versions and everything like that. And this happened on June 15th, 2017 at 11:59 p.m. exactly. And so after drawing the sigil and writing down the information, the spider climbs down the side of the glass bowl and climbs up onto my chest, like right up my man. Like everything in me wanted to just like take off running. And I sat there and I didn't. I knew, could not take off running. So I sat there and I'm locking eyes with this spider when he's like just inches away from my face. And I said that, you know, I want to be your ally. I propose that you be my ally and I will be yours. And may you teach me how to learn from you and work with your power and your energy, and give me any knowledge that you're willing to share with me. And so I closed out the ritual. I let the spider go. Next day, I come out and go to work, and a wolf spider has made a huge nest to the right side of my doorway. Like I walk out the door and I look over, and there's this massive, huge, it looks like a tornado. It's like this big widespread web that goes down into a funnel, and the wolf spider will sit back in the little bottom of the funnel. Whenever a bug lands in there, it'll come running out and get it and drag it back into its hole. They're truly terrifying looking things. But they're fascinating as well. It's something totally, you know, normally the old me would have been like, oh shit, let me get a stick and get that spider off my porch, throw it in the woods. Like, no, this is important. This is for a reason. And so I didn't really know what to make of it. I go to work that day. I'm sitting there at work, and out of nowhere, I'm totally zoned out working on what I was working on at the time. And that spirit came to me, the spider spirit, the master spirit of the spider god. And it gave me a vision, essentially. It gave me instructions, like downloaded instructions to me. Told me to go home, prick my finger, drip a drop of my blood into that spider web, and say that command word, na una na heska, followed by my full name. And that's it. Told me to do that. I'm like, why am I going to do this? You know, it's like, it's an initiation. Just fucking do it. I'm like, okay, this is going to be scary, but I'm going to do it anyway. So I get home, and I had a few hours by myself. As soon as I get home, I do that. I go outside, I prick my finger, I put a drop of blood in the spider web, and I speak that command word followed by my full name. And then that was it. I didn't know what else to do. So I go inside and I get my journal. I was writing a book at the time, a book I'm still working on, like 8 years later, 7, 8 years later. I'll publish it before I die, but yeah, it's still going to be a while because I'm still doing the path working, documenting as I go. So I sit down and I start trying to write, and this confusion came over me, like just utter confusion. I couldn't focus. I couldn't focus on writing. I couldn't focus on complete thoughts or anything. And I start hearing birds outside, like every kind of bird you can imagine: crows, hawks, freaking cardinals, blue jays, all these different birds just fucking going nuts outside. I'm like, what the hell's going on? So I walk out on the front porch, and these two giant red-headed woodpeckers come flying right past me, one after another. I mean, I'm talking like within arm's reach of my face on the porch, and they fly up in the tree and start pecking. And then like I look up and there's crows cawing and they're just staring at me. And then there's a hawk up in this tree and it's like screeching at me. And there's a whole bunch of like little blue birds in this tree in my front yard. There's cardinals flying around and there's blue jays, and they're all just making noise like a motherfucker. And it felt like they were warning me, you know. It gave me this uneasy feeling. So I walk out into my front yard below this tree where all these bluebirds were, and they fly down onto the ground in front of me. They look at me for a minute and then they fly off. I'm like, this is fucking weird, man. Like, what is going on? It's making me uneasy, you know? And so I go back inside, and a couple hours go by, and I'm steadily feeling more and more anxious and more like confused and anxious, just like that feeling like an anxiety attack coming on. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna go take like a ritual bath. I'm gonna go take like a cleansing bath. So I go run a bath, and I put my sea salt and my oils and herbs in there, my crystals in there, and I sit down in the water and try to meditate. And then you can't even call it a panic attack. Like, this was worse than anything I've ever experienced. The most intense fear and anxiety and panic I've ever felt in my life came over me about everything and nothing. I couldn't put my finger on. I didn't know what was going on. My heart was pounding out of my chest. It felt like my blood turned to ice water, like my blood ran cold, and I was just in a state of total fear and panic and terror. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So I sat there for a while. I get out of the tub, and I'm just like, well, maybe somebody's throwing some shit at me. Maybe this is like somebody's throwing a curse at me. At that point, I still hadn't put two and two together, you know? And so I go into my temple and I perform a knot magic reversal. This is a simple knot magic reversal. You don't have to know who sent it to you. It binds the curse, it amplifies it ×9, and then it hurls it back like a rubber band at wherever it came from. It's a fucking badass reversal, and if you know how to do this, then anybody that throws a curse at you, you can immediately go reverse it as soon as you sense it coming in, and it'll hit them 10 times harder. And so I perform this, and I feel better for about 3 minutes or so. I was like, I feel better. And then boom, it hits me 10 times harder. All right, I was like, what the fuck is going on here? So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna summon Ophal, the angel of deliverance that can remove curses and restore someone to full spiritual health. At this point in time, I'm in full panic mode. I don't know what the hell's going on. And so I summon Ophal, and I'm just like, please help me. I don't know what the fuck's going on with me. Like, I need your help. And I was like, what's happening here? And he spoke to me very clearly. He said, you cursed yourself, dumbass. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah. What you did earlier with that spider, putting your blood in that web and saying that command word, that was a curse. You placed a curse on yourself. Literally, you cursed yourself. I was like, oh, fuck. Well, what do I do? And so he's like, you can go burn that section of the spider web out and burn your blood, and then apologize to that fucking spider for fucking up his house, and then go to bed, and it's going to take you a while to recover from this. So I did that. I go outside, took a torch lighter, and I torched that whole section of the web out with my blood, and then wadded it up and burned it till it was nothing but ash. And then I apologized to the spider for fucking up his house. And I went to bed. Now, after, it was about, I don't know, probably about 10 minutes after I torched the spider web in my blood, the anxiety subsided. The panic and everything, like it stopped, subsided. It broke the curse, all right? So I thought. So I wake up the next day, and I've got 6 giant welts all over my chest and stomach. Spider bites. Some type of spider crawled into my bed and bit me 6 times all over my chest and stomach. And I woke up the next day about as sick as I've ever been. And I stayed sick. I was bedridden for a fucking week. And I was not normal for 2 weeks. Like, just wrecked my ass. Totally wrecked my ass. And so I was like, man, I ain't fucking working with that spirit no more. God damn. And so after I recover, a couple weeks later, I start seeing spiders everywhere again. I was at work. I looked down. There's a spider crawling up my shirt. There's a spider on the desk. I'm outside doing a ritual. Black Widow like crawls across the sigil. I'm just like, man, this thing's trying to get my attention again here. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to nut up and I'm going to go into my temple and summon this spider god again. And so I did. And the first thing I said is, why in the fuck would you do that to me? And its reply was like the most simplistic reply in the world. It said, you had to receive my bite in order to respect my venom. And now that you have done so, you can now use my venom against your enemies. And then explain to me how I can simply look at an enemy. I can look at a person and speak that command word, and they will instantly have a panic attack and experience the same fear, anxiety, and terror that I experienced after cursing myself. And I can take someone's hair or blood or probably even their written name and drop it into a wolf spider web and speak that command word, and it will curse them in the exact same manner that I cursed myself. Now, like, I've always experimented on myself, and that's how I know if shit works or not. If I'm trying to figure out like, oh, if I put this and this on a radionics box, what effect will it have on somebody? All right, so I do it to myself. That way I'll know, okay, this is exactly what I can expect. So this is one of those cases where I learned something, but it was extremely painful, but it's also one of the most valuable things I've ever learned. Because now anytime I'm in a confrontation with someone, say in a public place, or confronted by an enemy, or I just want to fuck somebody off for fucking with me, I can simply look at them. I can look at them, I can look at their picture and say that word followed by their name. Or if I have their DNA, their blood, or their hair, I can drop it into a spider web and say that word, and it will completely wreck them and bring them to their knees. So I will show you this sigil one more time here. It is quite beautiful, and that is the command word. End of story. I've been working with this spirit ever since. It was painful, but it was extremely beneficial. Hail the Infernal Empire.